surprise, surprise, more bad news for Demetrius "BooBoo" Andrade. His rumored opponent, or actually announced opponent, is overweight, so that fight might get scrapped according to the latest reports, and we gonna talk about it on this side. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Now sign up for ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus, my personal link is in the description box. It does help the channel continue to grow in a phenomenal way so we can stay independent, stay creative, stay working, stay thriving. ESPN Plus, they offer a ton of original content, docuseries, archive boxing, and UFC fights for your viewing needs. You can get ESPN Plus as a standalone app, or you can bundle it. ESPN Plus with Hulu and Disney Plus, all three apps, one low price of $12.99. And again, it does help the channel. Now, this is beyond ridiculous for Demetrius "BooBoo" Andrade's career. Mike Coppinger has discussed the latest in the world of Demetrius "BooBoo" Andrade. Says sources. Let me see if I can get you in close. All right. Hold on. So, The Athletic, sources, Demetrius Andrade is scheduled to fight Dusty Hernandez Harrison on November 27th on DAZN. But it's possible BooBoo will face a different opponent. When Dusty accepted the 168-pound non-title bout, he was way overweight. Demetrius Ballard is being explored as a replacement. Now, I don't know if this is, I don't know. This is just a mess. It's not shocking. It's not surprising. I've told you guys for the longest. The DAZN curse continues. This is just bad form. You have Demetrius Andrade. It's Tank's fighting on Halloween. So I know it's close to October 27th. Actually, it's October 28th. I knew I was close. So you basically have Demetrius Andrade, who is a skillful fighter. He represented America in the Olympics, and he is a champion at 160. You got him moving up for whatever reason to 168. He was scheduled to fight Dustin Hernandez Harrison or whoever. And now they're saying the guy is overweight, after getting public backlash. So I don't know. I don't know if it's the backlash and then maybe they're getting cold feet about making the fight, because a lot of people, including myself, Errol Spence Jr., had remarked about, the poor quality opposition. And it's not that Dusty Harrison is a bad fighter, but he's a career welterweight who I think he had trouble with the law, or his promotional contract with Rock Nation ended and he was really inactive. So it sounds like he's eating himself out of the divisions. If he's a former welterweight and then now they're saying he's overweight and he's a month out, so I guess they're looking for a backup. And this is the guy, Demetrius Ballard. Really not too familiar with him. His record is 20-0-1. It says, this is right here, this is already concerning. He's 27, so he's under 30, but he fights out of the middleweight. Why would Eddie Hearn and Rematchroom be having Andrade move up to 168 to fight middleweights when he's a champion at middleweight and he has a belt, a WBO belt there? So if this guy is a middleweight and Andrade is a middleweight and a champion, last time we checked before the pandemic, unless something has changed, then why don't they just fight at middleweight? Why would they have a non-title bout at 168? And Andrade already fought this year in January, and he seems to be a guy that takes care of himself. So this is just horrible. Why drag up a guy and not fight for your title and make it a non-title bout? This is a mess, people. So first you were going to fight a welterweight. Eddie Hearn had the man fighting a welterweight, a career welterweight, in Dustin Harrison Hernandez. And now he's trying to have him fight this middleweight at 168, who's unknown, unheralded. Andrade's not going to get a lot of credit. This is real appalling. He fought the Falco dude or whatever in 2019. So it's not a dude that's even had a fight this year. No impressive names on his resume. I don't know what the deal is with Demetrius Andrade and Eddie Hearn. And the funny thing is, DAZN just announced today that they are expanding to 200 markets. So one market that they're leaving and haven't really made the imprint that Eddie Hearn said they were going to make, which was the American Takeover. So this is supposed to be the American Takeover. Now they're trying to open up in different markets, and you haven't even conquered this. You have an American guy who's a great fighter in Demetrius Andrade, and you keep putting him in these predicaments where there's quality guys on DAZN for him to fight. Listen, all the DAZN reporters and Eddie Hearn pushing for the Charlo, I don't care about that, because that's the hardest fight to make out of the bunch for obvious reasons. Everybody knows promotional landscapes and different promoters and different priorities and prerogatives and stuff like that. You got this man, Demetrius Andrade, on the same side that Canelo's been on. One of the early signings. Andrade's an early signing. Triple G came over there. Billy Joe Saunders came over there. Callum Smith. So how's Andrade moving up to 168 and you got Billy Joe Saunders fighting Martin Murray? And you got Callum Smith inactive. And you have Jacobs fighting Rosado, and nobody else. You know what I'm saying? I would personally, probably rather see Demetrius Andrade versus Rosado. Just based on the way they fight. I don't know who's picking Rosado to beat Jacobs, and Jacobs has had some great paydays with the Canelo and Golovkin fights. So I would like to see some of that love spread to Demetrius Andrade, but he just, I don't know. He seems to be getting the short end of the stick. Look, the DAZN curse continues. They made this flyer, and now they're talking about a different opponent. So no time to promote, no time to, build any type of excitement, not a name that will build any excitement, not a name, either guy. How do you have two opponents and neither one of them are what fans are clamoring for Andrade? And this is what Eddie Hearn, this is the best he could do. This is sad, bro. This is real sad what they're doing to the career of Andrade, because I think Andrade truly will fight anybody, and I think he's skilled, so he could arguably beat the guys in or around his division 160, or if he goes up to 168. But this just ain't it. You picked one guy who they're saying is overweight, and he's a career welterweight. So I don't know what he's been doing in the pandemic, but it doesn't seem like he's been about his business if he's overweight a month out. And, behind the scenes, you had to agree and orchestrate this fight. Now they're talking about switching the opponents. It's becoming laughable what Eddie Hearn is doing to the career. Demetrius Andrade, truth be told, he should just be a free agent. You have better chance, or do like Mikey Garcia, do like Regis Prograis, do a one fight deal with PBC, see how that goes, and then, take your second step after your next fight. But at this rate, it's like Andrade could do this by himself. Like, I could promote Andrade, and I know a lot of people in the boxing game and the boxing world and stuff like that. I could probably get him a better opponent that'll get him a little bit more respect. Even a fight, and I know he's coming off a loss and he just fought, but they could have thought about this beforehand. Andrade versus Deryevchenko would have been a great fight for 160. It's like they're not even putting their thinking caps on when it comes to the career of Andrade. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Certain promoters, they don't seem to know what to do with African-American fighters, black fighters. Either they don't know, don't show, or don't care, or whatever the situation is. Because Billy Joe Saunders, he's fighting in Martin Murray, which that's a horrible fight too, but maybe that makes sense for his fans. But for Andrade, this doesn't make sense for anybody who's a fan of Andrade. It's hard to pull for or get excited for the fights that they're giving Andrade. You know what I mean? Like Lucas Keeler and Selecki after he has a war with Gabe Rosado and gets dropped and drops him, and after Danny Jacobs beat him. And this is the best Eddie Hearn can do. And they're talking about expanding and opening up DAZN and other markets. You need to start the mission or finish the mission you said you were going to start, which is the alleged American takeover. But it looks like they're tucking their tail and fleeing America, and they're just conceding that they're not good enough to compete with the bigger boxing outfits in the UFC and stuff in America. So, you know, they're taking their business overseas, you know, and focusing more on that. But meanwhile, you got a talented fighter, and he's calling. Look, he called out. Look, this is Andrade. He just did a recent video, and he says, "Mate, stop lying." And he called out Billy Joe Saunders, and then Billy Joe Saunders said, "You funny MFers, sort that hair out," right? So he's calling out for better fights, and you have DAZN reporters saying that he should fight Charlo. Charlo just fought. Get that out of your head. Saunders ain't fought, and Saunders was the target of this video right here. Why don't you make the in-house fight that should be the easiest to make? Saunders and Andrade had already agreed to fight. Saunders failed a drug test, and the fight was canceled. So now that the drug test is over, he got his license back or whatever, and he's able to fight, then why didn't you ever reschedule that? You're still in the same divisions. If Andrade's moving to 68, Billy Joe Saunders is at 68 now. They both were in 160. How do you have a fight that didn't happen and got canceled because of Billy Joe Saunders failed a drug test, but there's no pressure for the fighter with the complexion for the protection in Billy Joe Saunders to make that right and still fight Demetrius Andrade? And people were getting excited for that fight. I remember at the press conference, Andrade was dressed like Prince, and, you know, he had this colonial outfit, and, you know, I was really looking forward to that fight. But Billy Joe Saunders messed that up, and old media, there's no pressure for Billy Joe Saunders to make that right by actually fighting. And to make that even more messed up, when the fight was initially signed, Saunders was with Frank Warren, and Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn don't particularly get along. But now Billy Joe Saunders and Demetrius Andrade are both with Eddie Hearn, and just like Kell Brook and Amir Khan, the fight still ain't happening. How did Amir Khan move over to Kell Brook, his side of the street, you know what I'm saying, and team up with Rematchroom and Eddie Hearn? See, Eddie Hearn could give you, bro, instead of writing books and coming out with toys, Eddie Hearn got to sort this stuff out. Eddie Hearn can write books and 12 tips to success and, you know, act like he Warren Buffett, but you're not doing right by the fans, and you're not doing what the promoter is supposed to be doing. How is it that Kell Brook been with Matchroom up until recently, Amir Khan comes over there, they were even spotted at fights together, but Eddie Hearn couldn't make that fight happen, Kell Brook and Amir Khan, even though they were both signed to Rematchroom. And then now, same thing. This was a scheduled fight, which is even worse. They had an actual date, had posters and stuff with Saunders and Andrade, and then now, after failing the drug test, it got canceled and it never got rescheduled, but they're both signed to the same man and the same company, and they're both fighting on the same platform. And DAZN reporters rather talk about Charlo. They want to talk about Charlo and Andrade, who Charlo, he bounces back from Showtime and Fox. That's obviously, just based off of that alone, that's harder to make. Charlo's doing his own thing, both of them. They're fighting on pay-per-view, you know, they're fighting main events, they're fighting a week apart. They're building their brand. One of them got the YouTube, you know, you see them on private jets and stuff. They live in life, and they just both fought basically unifications with Derevyanchenko, and then there was a unification with Rosario. So instead of Andrade and DAZN worried about Charlo, worry about your next move and getting Andrade the fights that the fans are asking for, you know? And we're not asking for anything unrealistic. He has a good long friendship with Danny Jacobs from the amateurs, so I'm not expecting Andrade and Jacobs to fight. But everybody else should be food. Canelo, DAZN, why didn't Canelo ever have to fight Andrade? DAZN is going through a lawsuit with Canelo, and they're part of the contention is what Canelo fights are deemed premier opponents. And they have a black fighter for Canelo in Demetrius Andrade. How is that not a premium opponent? Once beaten in an undefeated fighter, both champions at 160. And DAZN never pushed for it. DAZN, the premise of it makes sense, you know, but the execution has been terrible. You know, you had too much people at 160 and 168 to only have made Canelo Jacobs unification. That's the only meaningful fight. Andrade ain't been in the loop. Billy Joe Saunders keep fighting Krusty the Clown. hey, you know, Otto from The Simpsons. Hey, Bart. You know, fighting these random dudes. Andrade switching opponents 2 weeks before the fight. Come on, man. I'm done. Let me know what you guys think. This is just very disappointing because Eddie Hearn, you got to get some better stuff for Andrade. This is what you're doing to your black fighter. Why would any black fighter sign to Rematchroom at this rate? If you have a top talent and a U.S. Olympian, and these are the best fights for several years since this has been going on, that Eddie Hearn can conjure up. And I can't even give Eddie Hearn credit for Jacobs' bigger fights, because the fight with Canelo, that's just a matter of Canelo chose Jacobs. You know what I'm saying? So Eddie Hearn wasn't really in the driver's seat. They just they were the B-side to that. You see what I'm saying? So they just got chose on. What is Eddie Hearn given to Andrade that would make him a household name or, you know, make him respected? That's the question. And time is not on fighters' side. You know, the fighters pushing 30 plus and stuff like that. There's a new crop of fighters. Teofimo, he just beat Lomachenko. He's younger. You have Shakur Stevenson. You have Ryan Garcia about to fight Luke Campbell. Gervonta has a big first pay-per-view this week with Leo Santa Cruz. So if he wins, you know, the sky's the limit, etc. You have all these Joey Spencers and all these young fighters, David Benavidez and Edgar Berlanga. You got all these tough, talented people who are looking to make their mark. And if there's a guy who's came in the game 8 to 10 years before them and he can't seem to catch a break with any promoter, you know? And don't tell me it's his style, because there's a lot of guys with awkward styles that have gotten better fights, you know? Sad. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.